What's going on, Ameekos? How's everybody doing today? So I think what we're probably not going to have is the screen reader, um, because I am joined with my older brother Daniel, AZ Red Wolf, Crimson Red Wolf on Twitter. He will be providing with the chat readings and everything like that. I actually have a webcam today. How crazy is that, right, chat? Hopefully everything sounds good. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if you guys can't. All right, just
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Um, okay, guys, welcome. I'm just setting up my microphone and getting everything situated, and we should be good to go. Hi. Hello. Welcome to the Hind-Sight Podcast. I know everything kind of looks like crazy and whatnot, but come on, you got to give me a break. I'm blind. What do you want from me? Camera's probably at a weird angle. You got the promotion up at the top right, and then my little avatar, and then of course you got AZ Red Wolf on the bottom right there. He is going to be joining me for the Hind-Sight Podcast. Ameekos, how's it going? I wish I can get this microphone a little bit at a better angle. That'll work. Just tighten this down. Cool. So, first foray into podcasting should be really fun. Obviously, if you guys can't hear me or see me, please type in the chat. Red Wolf will read any comments or anything like that. Feel free to ask questions and hang out and just kind of chime in. Very free form, very free flowing podcast. It's my first one, so I'm really happy to kind of get it going and to really focus on it. This is something I've been wanting to do forever, so it's time to throw my hat in the ring. Red Wolf, do you have anything that you wanna say or intro or introduce yourself?
Well, for people who are here who've been to my channel, I am AZ Red Wolf. Also, people know me as Daniel from Phoenix, Arizona. I grew up gaming since I was like 4 years old with my original Super Nintendo, and then just kind of been gaming ever since. I've had multiple consoles: had PS1, PS2, PS3, Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox One X, PC, Switch, you name it. I've probably owned it, except for maybe like two consoles in my gaming life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess owning owning a bunch of consoles, because obviously PC wasn't at the forefront of everything, right? I mean, the PC has been around for a while when it comes to gaming, but it seemed like one more of a niche market back in obviously the 90s and the early thousands, but consoles were the way to go. Honestly, when it came down to it, obviously, Ameekos, you know who I am, blind gamer, resident blind streamer. Not the only one, apparently. There have been more of us coming out of the woodwork, and I'm extremely happy about that. When it comes down to it, because it just shows that accessibility and screen reading tech is coming more to light and more to fruition than I would have guessed or what I would have imagined. And it just makes me real happy that more people, more blind people, or more people who have disabilities are coming out to stream and showcase their talents.
Wolfman Jack's asking me if I've ever played a not so big title called Legend Dragoon. Yes, I know. I know of that title. Played it way back in the day. Man, God, title I have not heard in quite some time. Probably been about at least, I would say, almost like my high school days. It was probably like the last time I ever played that game. Um, Fun game, great game, tough game at times, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely Definitely a game I think people should check out if they ever have the time. So definitely a series, a really cool one. Um, let's get into it. So let's talk something that this is something that is essential to you and essential to everyone. This is accessibility in video games. For you, you have stated before you're blind in your left eye and you are pretty much blind in your right eye, though you can see in color. What do you use to kind of help you play video games that makes it comfortable and easy for you to get into a game and not have to worry about it?
Well, you know, that's kind of hard to say because right now, when it comes to gaming accessibility, and when I talk about gaming accessibility, I'm mainly speaking from the experience that I have with blindness, because I know closed captioning and subtitles have been in games for quite some time now. Even before voice acting, all of the stuff was read, right? You could just read it through texts. I know OT was like that at the beginning, but you're seeing more and more accessibility happening in games nowadays than ever before. Like some games of note are The Last of Us 2, probably revered as one of the best accessible friendly games to pretty much everyone, hearing impaired, visually impaired, um, people who have like physical disabilities. It seems like that was really catered to those people. As far as games that don't really have accessibility, there's quite a few of them out there as well, more so than not. Like there are your favorite, the one you have done with Resident Evil. Resident Evil 8 has really nothing in that would make the game easier in that accessibility is pretty much non-existent. Closed captioning's there, surround sound I guess is there, but it's all virtual.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. Um, though, though, counter to that, another Capcom game that we have discovered has some accessibility, not a whole lot, but some, is Monster Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. Is that they're both developed by the same company, obviously different teams. I mean, there's a Monster Hunter division and a Resident Evil division most likely. Um but it's Capcom. So with in relation to those two games, you'll see that Capcom in Monster Hunter really kind of has like the lock on feature to lock on to multiple body parts. They have a guiding arrow there. So if you can see some color, it's a red arrow. You keep it at the center of your screen and you kind of just follow that towards the monster. Obviously, there's like verticality with the wire bugs and everything like that. So that's kind of a challenge. But there's always something. And this is kind of what I've learned about when it comes to gaming, because growing up and gaming in like the 90s or the early thousands, excuse me, um, growing up in that time frame, gaming was just something you did for fun. I mean, it still is. Don't get me wrong. People do it as a hobby. But it's more serious now. There's esports, competitive, um, whatever, what have you. People are putting more stock into story. They're getting higher budget voice actors. Some people are from like voice actors in games are treated like celebrities in Hollywood. Um, when like visual fidelity has obviously come a long way, but when you're growing up in the 90s and playing these games, audio wasn't like at the forefront. We had 8-bit games, we had 16-bit games, we had the polygon going into the obviously the 64, the PS2, the PS1. Audio wasn't, it was just like, oh, it's stereo surround. Not even that, it was 2-channel stereo mono mix, especially with the older games. So audio was bad. It's because we didn't have anything to support it, right? We only had like CRT TVs. Um, yeah.
I think it was bad. I think it's bad compared to now. Back then, you have to think about it at the time. Those were cutting edge, especially. I'll take myself for example. When my dad had bought myself and my sister a PS2, he actually bought a surround sound system for that. And at the time, that was a lot of money. He had just bought the PS2 the year it came out that Christmas, and that wasn't a cheap console. That was at least like almost $400. And but to buy the surround sound system, he dropped like an extra 150. Um, Not to mention
Right.
he had bought 3 games, 2 controllers, and a memory card. My dad probably paid at the time upwards to almost like $700-800, which in today's money would probably be in the couple thousands.
Yeah, inflation. No, and I get it, right? Like back then, if you go back in time, obviously, if you take everything you know now and you go back in time and you'll see, the audio, you're like, man, we were like cavemen, we were banging two rocks together. You know what I'm saying? Like it was so bad. But if you just go back and you forget everything, yeah, everything that was cutting edge. Um, but my point being to that is that when you grow up playing games that way, you tend to find little cheats, like little life hacks, right? You tend to find ways to play the game. You know that saying, where there's a will, there's a way. That's kind of what I implemented in a strategy going and playing video games in that era, because a lot of the times I would be sitting back and watching my brothers play or my sisters play or my cousins or whatever, and I enjoyed that. That's why I think the YouTube it got so popular, because Let's Plays exist, streams exist, Twitch exists now, so you can sit back and watch players play. But for me, that was like growing up. I would just watch my brothers or my cousins or whatever play a video game. But when I did play, I took a lot of inspiration from the Totally Blind Gamer who beat Ocarina of Time, and that's a 64-bit. That's from the Nintendo 64 days.
I think I remember. I don't remember the guy's name, but I do
Yeah,
remember reading about that, and I was like, "Wow, that was impressive!" Like the guy cannot see the game whatsoever, but he was going off so many audio cues that he eventually like learned how each area was structured and layered out, and he knew the dungeon layouts, he knew the enemy sounds, he knew the cues to the bosses. It took him a while, but he managed to do it, and that's why I think that was the more impressive part. It was like some people can speed run the game, they can glitch their way through the game, but this person found a way to play the game without ever having to actually look at it, and therefore could not see it, and was still able to play it at his own level and managed to beat it. And that I thought was like, wow, that was genuinely impressive. Like this guy is on a whole nother level with audio cues.
right. And I think that is the point that is being made, right? Is that when you look at a game in relation to, like, if you can sit down and you can play it, right? And I'm talking for the sighted world. I think the things that are taken for granted is that you can see the button prompts, you can see the tutorials, you can read things, and don't get me wrong, like nowadays game tutorials are voiced and everything, at least most of the time, and they kind of add tutorials in a really cool way. But there's always still mini maps, there's always maps, there's always things. But if you really kind of think about it and take a step back in a blindness perspective, every game, whether it's RPG, shooter, anything, could be taken like an open world exploration type game. The worlds are just smaller, right? So you take a world like The Witcher 3, vast world, huge world, you can explore big continents and crazy things like that. And then we'll scale it all the way back to a Halo map. Well, that's still a world. It's a smaller region. And if game companies were to take like what Halo did with like this, I can't remember, with the map creator, and we were able to walk around the maps without being
Forge mode.
Right, Forge mode. So you're able to walk around the maps and learn weapon spawns or learn, you know, if I take, how many, where am I spawning in relation? I've taken a lot of tips from Cane Travel because as a blind person, you have different skills that you have to learn growing up. So sometimes it's Braille, sometimes it's home management where you learn how to navigate your home or you navigate the appliances around, uh, you know, basically with blindness techniques. So one of them is called cane travel. What cane travel is learning how to walk around independently. So if I'm going to walk out my front door and go take a bus, I can do that on my own. That's something that people teach you, or I have, and I've had the honor of teaching other students. But I found that you can take some of those lessons and you can put them into games. So this is a pro tip for anybody who is interested or anybody who is blind and they wanna try a game or try out a game. Just boot up the game, get into the main. If there's like a lobby like Monster Hunter, if there's like a village or something like that you're in, just listen to your environment. A lot of the times I play with music turned all the way off or low, because background music, although some of them, some of the tracks are really good, unfortunately, it kind of impedes on ambience or sound effects or things that could give you, some type of direction, right? So I'll take one of the most recent games for Monster Hunter with Kimura. You go into the Gathering Hub. When you spawn into the Gathering Hub, the first thing you hear to your left is drums, right? The two cats banging on the drums, the drummer cats, drummer palicos. Right. That is a stagnant audio cue. It doesn't move. It's always there. It never turns off, unless obviously maybe there's a setting for it, but it never turns off. So that is a good landmark that you can tell. Same like if a game has a fountain or a waterfall or running water. Where are you in relation to the running water? Does the running water sound behind you? Is it to the right of you? Is it in front of you? Is it to the left? And that's where good sound design comes into play, right? Back then, they didn't have that great of an audio design to where you can kind of use these techniques. So for me, another technique that I've used is that blindness itself, there's varying degrees and varying levels, right? You have total blindness and visually impaired. Those are kind of the two terms that get thrown around a lot. So visually impaired is like, oh, my vision's impaired. What I take from that is maybe something different that other people take from visual impairment. Visually impaired just means that your vision is impaired without corrective vision. So glasses, contacts, what have you, right? Mm-hmm. And total blindness is totally blind. You can't see anything out of either eye, right? Complete total darkness, left eye, right eye. What I am, if you want to put a label on it, I'm technically what's called a low partial. So meaning that I have partial vision in my right eye, but it's very low. But I am totally blind in my left eye, right? Because I can't see anything out of my left eye. It's really confusing. So that's why I call myself blind gamer, because it's blind. Everybody understands, okay, blind. Makes sense. But needless to say, I can still see colors. I can still see colors and some shapes and shadows. So I'll use that as a tool in games. So if I notice that there's a big white castle in front of me, I'm like, all right, well, whenever I see the big white castle, I know where I'm at. It's a landmark. And you kind of take that even for sighted people. How do you guys give directions? All right, if you go, take a left here, take a right. If you hit the McDonald's, you've gone too far, right? That's kind of the same thing. If you see the McDonald's, you went too far. You're away from your destination. It's taking those life skills and kind of implementing them into a game.
So it's almost as I would say in like ROTC, this is orientation on a different level, whereas you are, because orientation or not orientation, orienteering. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Orienteering, for those who didn't know that, was a competition that we did in ROTC, and what they would do is they would put marks
My cat keeps like
on.
clawing at my leg. Anyway.
uh, so they would take markers and they would put them on certain things, whether it be a cactus, tree, a bush, um, by a river of water. And what they would do is they would give you coordinates, and you would have to know where you're at because one coordinate would give you to a landmark. But then you could get lost because if you're not tracking certain landmarks, like okay, I know to my east there, or yeah, to my east there is a big apple tree, but then just north of that, or northeast, because that would be the general direction. Just north of that, there's a small lake, and we would use coordinates we would get from a sheet, and we would have to determine if that was the correct path we would get. And everyone would get different sheets. And you would get points based on of how close you were to the approximate marker you were supposed to take. And of course, that could be taken. That could also be used in gaming as well. For people who are visually impaired or even blind with the audio cues, because like you said, if you have like a body of water behind you, you're like, all right, that's the stream. The stream is right there, and that would mean if I'm near the stream, the village is not that far from me.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same concept. Obviously, it's a little bit different because it's a virtual space versus you actually walking around. But in the theory of it, and it's worked for me, that is kind of what I use if a game doesn't have full accessibility options like a screen reader or a collision detector or something like that. It's there are little tricks that you can do to kind of figure that out. And don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect tool, but what it is a tool. It's something that you could use in your arsenal. That allows and you obviously when you're a gamer, you take your skills that you've learned from different games and you apply them, or you see if you can apply them to different games. So for example, you're a Halo player, you're going to take those skills that you learned from Halo and try to apply them to Call of Duty. Obviously mechanics are a little bit different. You see this a lot in fighting games. You hear this a lot when it comes to fundamentals. Fighting games, they all have a core fundamental. There's a neutral, there's mechanics, there's terminology that you'll learn that work in every single fighting game. It's kind of the same thing, is that when you learn and you play games for as long as I have, you start to kind of like find your rhythm, find your cheats, and find your hacks to learn the game. Does it double, triple, quadruple your playtime? Absolutely. And does it get frustrating? Absolutely. It does. Because I wish that I could just like bring up a map and find out where I'm at. And like if in Resident Evil, for example, bring up a map and be like, okay, I need to take a left here. I can go up in this room. Blah blah. That would be great, but sometimes that's just not possible. And I can't. In my mind, I'm not a game designer. But having a screen reader, like for example in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, to give you markers and pinpoints on the map, that's a step in the right direction. But when it comes down to it, accessibility is still far ways away from making every single game playable. But that doesn't mean just because a game doesn't have accessibility doesn't mean it's outright unplayable. You just gotta find a niche. You gotta find a way to play it, and you gotta play it your own way. Right? There's no right way to play a game.
Greek gods, you said furies are mentally unstable? Do you mean fury as in like someone's wrath, or like were you trying to say furry? I don't know. I don't know what you were trying to say.
Furries are mentally unstable. Cool, bro. I mean, I guess if that's what you're trying to say, you know.
He spelled it. If you're saying furries, he misspelled it badly. Because he spelled it with an apostrophe s, and that means possession. So he's saying furies, like whatever furies possessing is mentally unstable. Is it his towel? Is it his teapot? Like what is it he possesses? If you're trying to say furries, that's F-U-R-I-E-S.
Linguistics, chat. English is a hard language.
Spanish is a hard language.
Speaking is hard. Speaking is hard.
I agree. I mean, let me look at us. We both spoke Spanglish, but then in Spanish we have 13 different ways to say the same exact word.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's just in different tenses. Do you want future past? Do you want future present? Do you want future future? Do you want past present? Do you want past past?
God,
Like
that's just getting confusing as it is. Jesus.
that was conjugation.
Yeah, I bet.
Everything's hard. No, I agree with man. It's a challenge, but you know, it's a fun challenge. It's like any video game has a learning curve, you know, and it really depends on how well you pick up on that learning curve. You know, some people can get it like that, like it's natural to them. For others, it's a challenge. They got to find that rhythm, as my brother said. You know, and especially for people who are blind or visually impaired, it's like they got to take a little bit more of the time. They got to understand the game. They understand the mechanics, the layout of the land. But eventually, once they do it over and over and they commit to it, it becomes second nature. It's like the disability no longer exists. At some point, you just get so immersed into the game. You're just like, I'm playing the game.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of true. The disability is always there, unfortunately,
I
but
mean, it's always there, but you know what I mean. It's like it when you're so immersed in the game, you don't even acknowledge it. You're playing the game.
right.
You're playing it just a different way because that's how you were able to play the game.
That's kind of the thing, right? Is that there's no right way. Obviously, if you die in a video game, that's kind of the wrong way to do it, right? Like you're dead. So, but there is no inherent wrong way to play a video game. Um, at least not by any stretch of like an imagination. Where if you do something that somebody doesn't agree with, obviously, wrong is subjective at best. But there's no right way. There's no wrong way. You paid your money for your game. You play it the way you want to. Obviously, when I say it's wrong is when you're impeding on somebody else's fun. If your fun is impeding on somebody else's fun, hacking, cheating, whatever, that is wrong, obviously. But if it's like a single player title and you want to do whatever you want with your game in your game, whatever, then you have full liberties and full rights to do what you want with your game. But when it comes down to it, is that game time for me for somebody like me, and I can't speak on any other person who has a blind or a visual impairment or anything like that. But for me, it takes quite a bit of time to complete a video game. Just because it's a learning process. It's always been a learning process.
Right.
Picking up a new game is like, I wouldn't even know how to bring an analogy into it. It's always a task. It's almost daunting when it comes to certain games, right? It's pretty daunting. But you learn as you go, especially with genres in games. There's always patterns. There's always patterns when it comes to certain things like RPGs, turn-based RPGs. They always have the same ebb and flow, because it's why it's called a genre for a reason, right? Shooters, fighting games, like the genre, the style. That's how you label it. Games will have similar similar ebb and flow tendencies when it comes to those types of games. So it's just kind of up to you how you figure that out. And everybody's different. Everybody has their way of going about a game. Some people will love to read the tutorials and play the tutorial and really get really good at mechanics and gameplay before they start playing the game. Other people are like, fuck the tutorial, I'm going to skip the tutorial, and they want to figure it out on their own. So everybody has their ways of going about it. And I'm pretty sure, since I'm not the only blind gamer out there, I'm pretty sure people have found out ways to do something a lot better than I would. But this is my chance, and this is kind of my opportunity of how to really get down and explain it, because sometimes I just can't. A lot of the times when I'm playing a game and I do something, it's kind of based off feel. if that makes sense. You ever, for all my fighting games players in the chat, you guys you guys ever hear like, oh, he's playing by feel, or he's playing with his heart out there. Some people don't know frame data. Some people don't understand the science behind fighting games. They just, I'm gonna do this because sure. That's kind of, and they're not afraid to make a mistake. That's kind of how I approach most games. It's like, I'm gonna do this here, or I'm gonna make a decision, and the decision has to be a snap decision. And okay, it worked out. Or fuck, that didn't work out. Okay, let's try something different. Um,
I do it all the time. Don't get me wrong. I still study frame data every now and then. I kind of look at my options, but I've never been so indulged in the science that I just tell myself, and I understand what you mean by. Sorry guys, apparently food's ready, but I'll get that later. Uh, I've approached fighting games where it's like I understand the mechanics. I don't necessarily know the frame data, but I'm more of a reactionary type of player. It's like, and I learn over time how to better handle the character I'm using. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? But then I also play the whole mind game thing, and not necessarily mind games, if that makes sense to you. But the whole games have patterns, but players have patterns. Some players, not saying everyone's predictable, but some players will have certain habits, and if you can pick up on it, you can find a way to adjust games, your strategies to it to counter it. And if you can do it on the fly, that makes you pretty good.
yeah.
Wolfman wants to know, as a blind gamer, are turn-based RPGs good for you that don't require any immediate action?
Yeah, they are, because again, the vision that I have is a tool, right? So the colors, the shapes, the shadows. I also use a product called Hind-Sight that helps me zoom in the screen. So if something is stationary, or something gives me enough time to really think about it or figure something out, that I think turn-based RPGs are probably my favorite, because there's no anything with a time limit is like a blind gamer's worst nightmare. That's why QuickTime events are the bane of fucking existence, because it's a quick button press that comes up within a matter of seconds, and if you hit the wrong button, or if you hit the button press too late, too early, or the wrong one entirely, you're dead.
You still having nightmares from our Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 run?
Yeah, they suck. QuickTime events suck.
At least 5 wasn't as bad.
It still sucks.
It was 6 is where we had a lot of quick time. 5, the only real quick time was, hey, like, I'm getting grappled by someone. Come kick him in the face, please.
Yeah. So
or if you're playing as Chris, can you please punch this man to the next level?
I'm just happy that QuickTime events are kind of a dying breed. I get it. It's an immersion thing, but fuck it. No.
You're not a fan of QuickTime events as well in general. I mean, I can understand that. I would say the only game that really gets QuickTime events right is Resident Evil 4, because that's where it all started. But it was such a good blend because they weren't frequent. They weren't something that it was going to happen all the time. And it only happened in certain conditions. For example, if you shoot an enemy in the face, they'll get into a stagger state, and you get a quick time action. For me, it was pressing the X button. And the X button, Leon would do a roundhouse kick. And that roundhouse kick can actually come in handy at times when it comes to you maybe being facing with a group. And if you shoot the head of the group, you can roundhouse kick and push the group back. And it gives you a little bit of breathing room. You have time to switch your weapons out, have time to reload, or time to get the hell out of there. You have so many different options after that. And then there were other things where certain enemy attacks, depending on the enemy, would have quick time action for you to dodge. So if it was one of the knights in armor, they would have somewhat of a quick time action where you could do a dodge over. And there were some sections of the game of exploration which required quick time events. But I think Resident Evil 4 was the prime example of how to do great quick time actions because they weren't as frequent. They were just there as a mechanic, and it helped make the game a little more interesting, but the game was not heavily dependent on it. And I think probably the best scene that it did was the quick time scene, which is the scene between Leon versus Krauser in the knife fight. I'll tell you right now, when I first played that game, I died because I had no idea that was going to be a quick time event. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a cutscene. Leon pulled out his knife. Like I'm about to see him cut someone up, and then next you know, Krauser just comes up and like slices my chest open. I'm like, that was a quick time event, and I was like, all right. So I picked up my controller again, and then I was like, okay, like shoulder buttons, okay, A and X, or at the time it was A and B because I was playing on GameCube, like A and B, shoulders again, put like tap A rapidly, tap X rapidly, and it's like that was such a good idea. But I think Capcom took that and like we need to make it part of the game, and it's like you added a little too much. Like you, when you take the perfect blend, you need to keep it the perfect blend. Because if you decide to add more to it, then that's when you're going to start deviating from the original idea, and um, that's where people can find it very displeasing. And I have to agree with a lot of people that six had way too many um, quick time events and just needed to like tone that down, which is why I think it was great that they pretty much got rid of them in seven.
Yeah, quick time events suck. Anyway, uh, I, I,
So so
uh,
so 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 going back to the RPGs, so something like Chrono Trigger would be a very difficult challenge for you because Chrono Trigger is time based, is time based attacks, not uh not turn based.
yeah, Chrono Trigger. I think like some of the Final Fantasy games, it was more so time based. Anything time based is kind of it's if you look at it this way, a lot of the stuff is trial and error, right? Trial and
Yeah.
error is kind of like the motif. Excuse me. So when it comes down to it, the if there's you have trial and error, but then you have a time sequence on top of that. That's like the worst combination because you're not getting a lot of time to think about what you have tried and where your mistakes come from because now you're trying to beat the clock on top of doing something correct. And I love gaming, but I don't want to play a game with the same efficiency as performing neurosurgery. Look, I want a little bit of margin for error, okay? Um, that's kind of the whole basis of a video game. I get there's challenge, but arbitrary challenge is something of a whole other topic. But
I agree. I
I
agree.
just think when it comes down to it, a lot of it is trial and error. So when it comes to Chrono Trigger, yeah, if it's like time based thing where there's like a little meter or a clock that's ticking down, and I really have a chance to kind of think about what I'm doing. Um, I'll play a fighting game instead of that, honestly, because fuck it.
Yeah. It's so the way the game it's based off of speed. So the higher the character speed, the faster um, their attack sequence reoccurs.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's definitely one of those RPGs where it had a unique battle system and I liked it, but I can definitely see how the uniqueness of it would become a challenge for people who one cannot see, or maybe people who are not good at making snap decisions. Because that game actually, once you start getting into the latter games, especially the end game, you're having to make decisions like it's almost like playing a fighting game, except you're playing an RPG and you're fighting a boss, and this boss has essentially a life-ending attack, and you have to constantly manage your health. You have to constantly manage your MP, your HP, your combo attacks. You know, and it's because it becomes one of those things where the game itself, while a very fantastically made game, I can understand where the challenges come in, and if you're in there's a mechanic that is a hindrance to you, the challenge may not be able to be completed.
yeah. You know, and like I said, every game can't be played by blind people. Do I wish that was the case? Absolutely. I would love every game to be playable by everyone. Um, but we're not there yet. We're definitely not there yet. I honestly, there are games out there that I cannot find any sort of life hack, any sort of tech, any sort of anything to give people that would would be visually impaired or anything like that. It's just it's not possible. Um, I think the only game that comes to mind is like Among Us. If I'm
Yeah,
if I'm trying to think of like a game that's pretty much near damn impossible because that requires so much visual presence. Like you probably could memorize the tasks and stuff like that, but that requires so much like other outside visual things like map awareness and other things like that that I think you would be missing a lot of information to play that game effectively. If you're just playing to bullshit and have fun, yeah, by all means, you probably could play it. But yeah, to be effective, and I think that's a good point because if you think about it, people who have blindness, and I don't speak for everyone, I'm speaking for myself. People who generally have a sense of I'm going to play this game. I know in my stance is I want to be good at said game. Like I want to try because I like a challenge. Um, Sometimes that's just not feasible to be like perfect or the best at that video game, right? Because I could play KI at a high level, tournament level, but I can't foresee myself going and playing like Guilty Gear, Exerd, or like Blaze Blue at that same level because it would one take way too much time and time that I don't have because like that's the construct, right? Time is the construct. If you had enough time, if you put enough time and dedication into something, just like that Ocarina of Time player, you probably could do anything you set your mind to. You'll find tricks, trades, mods, what have you to help you out through the game. But that's where you have to pick and choose where you're gonna send your time and where you're gonna send your energy into that gaming space. If that makes
that
sense.
no, that makes perfect sense to me. And I would think that goes for anybody, not just for anyone who's blind, because there's some people who, um, and I have to actually thank Microsoft and specifically the Xbox division who have done this. They're trying to actually help with accessibility, not just from the game standpoint, but also from the controller standpoint, which is why I like some of the stuff that they've added. Like they have I forgot what the device is called, but essentially it's just a big like A and B button
Yeah.
that for people who have disability with hands or movement, any kind of movement disability, whether it's paraplegic, quadriplegic. Um, they have. I think I saw someone that they took one of the controllers on a guy who's quadriplegic and they actually put the controls on his armrest. So like he could still move his fingers, so he would use like his fingers and his thumbs, like they would have the thumbsticks on the side, and he would use those to move, and then he would just be pressing buttons with his fingers. So if he had to press X, he pressed X. If he was doing anything of that nature, he like if he needed to reload, he knows where his reload button is. If he was playing a shooter, he knows where his fire button's at. I forgot where I forgot where I saw it, but I thought it was such a really cool idea because it's like they want to give other people uh, a chance to play video games, not just the people who are able-bodied. And I think from there they're going to start delving into more technology of how can we move from just the physically disabled to who are the people who are physically blind. How can we help them achieve more accessibility in games? Do we need to up the sound design? Do we need to add an option where we'll for people who can't see certain colors, it's like can we like who are blind to certain colors, can we colorblind mode was one of the first few ideas.
Yeah.
How can we enhance that mode to now people, let's say some of your conditions, like they can see color just fine. How do we maybe make the image just a little bit more clearer for them to see? It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to give them an idea of what they're looking at.
Right. Right. I think because that uh, tangent brought up a topic in my head. You see this a lot in VR chat or VR streamers, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure a lot of the chat has heard of this phenomenon called phantom touch or phantom sense. I don't know where it's
Oh,
I don't know where it's or like it derives from or anything like that. I
I I
just
I I know. So there is a theory. It's a medical theory actually that people get no get some people who lose a limb or lose like a finger or a hand, they get what's known as a phantom pain. The receptors in your body, even though it has been cut off, they are still sending signals to that receptor. It's not going anywhere.
mm,
So some people, some I know a couple of war veterans that I've had the pleasure of speaking to. One of them lost a leg. He says he still gets leg pain in his lower leg. Well, his lower leg's gone, but he still feels it because it's a phantom pain. So
mm,
that's where that theory comes in. Is that, and it's been kind of proven that the receptors are still active. They just don't go anywhere. That's like it gets cut off right there, but it causes them to feel it, um, even though the feeling is not real. It goes up to the brain, and your brain tells yourself you feel it, but then in reality, there's nothing to feel. But that kind of sense was able to find its way, I know, into the VR community because it's like, while it's not physically there, you can still feel it for some reason because it's more of a mental thing that, um, like you recognize the feel of something, therefore the phantom feel or even phantom pains become more real to you, and it becomes normal at some point.
right. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, and nor am I like stating that. But what I could describe as the experience that I have, um, when it comes to that, because like when you take a look at that phenomenon of phantom sense, phantom touch, whatever it is, it kind of is a good explanation, in my opinion, of how sometimes to explain the unexplainable, if that makes sense. So like if you're walking towards something, like I'll just use the example from last night. So in Resident Evil 8, I was watching SVM play through it, and she was
Mm-hmm.
in the Heisenberg factory, and the way she described it is it was those traps that were like, they were spinning or whatever. They would kind of be on a rotation, and that you can hear the sound is just like, you could tell that it's like on a rotation, it's spinning. I don't know if it was like machinery or whatever, and it would spin and it would kind of go into the walkway. So if you stood in front, if you were walking down and you didn't walk fast enough, you would just get smacked by the object that was kind of spinning around, right? But you could hear it when it was spinning. So when SVM would move further away, the sound would get further away. If she moved close enough, the sound would get really close. I don't know. You've played through Resident Evil. You probably know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to think.
Um,
In Heisenberg's factory.
yeah, I can't really describe where it's at. I just know that these objects, they spin or they rotate, and then you have to like run past real quick, or else the rotating object would just like, smack you, or it's a trap. It smacked the zombies or whatever the fuck they were, like the
Oh,
enemies.
I think I know so there was a path, and it's when you're getting the second mold, and to
Mm-hmm.
it's to get the cogwheel.
Right.
Um,
Needless to say,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Spoilers if anybody hasn't got there.
So what that trap is, because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's actually a puzzle. So there, she would have probably would seen like red orbs on, because it essentially was like a big engine, big engine room that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
She would have saw like red orbs. She had to shoot those because it stops the essentially the cylinder.
Yeah. So going back to what I was saying, so when the the engine or the device was spinning,
Mm-hmm.
when she got close, it sounded like the spin was in front of you. And then when she ran past it, obviously that object isn't going to be stationary, so it's kind of, rotating like this. And she'll rotate and she runs past it, so it's in front of her, then it rotates, she runs, and it's behind her. Now, the sense that I got when she was running, so it would rotate in front of her, stop, rotate, run, and it would come back. So what I felt, for me, I felt that shit whoosh over my head, right? Kind of like
Right.
wind or whatever, and I had like every instance to like duck, in real life. I'm like, oh shit, I can hear it kind of whoosh over your head, and you're just like, what the fuck? So it's kind of like that phantom sense of like, okay, your body kind of feels that you're in danger or something like that, if something's too close. I think that's kind of where the play by feel comes into effect, right? So you're like, I gotta get past this thing, or I gotta move in a certain direction. So if I'm playing a shooter, or if I'm playing, because I've played Halo before, you get that creeping feeling. That feeling that you get when you like something's over your shoulder, or you that little prickle on the back of your neck or something like that. When you're like, fuck, somebody's behind me. You kind of take a look real quick. Sometimes I'll get that when I'm playing Halo, and I'm like, do I hear footsteps? Okay, I don't know. I don't know if I hear footsteps, and I'll feel like the tap of my shoulder. I'll feel something behind me, and then I'll flick my mouse behind and start firing, taking a guess, and I hit something. That's kind of what it is. It's because it's guesswork.
It's
And
it's it's almost like an advanced version of a gut instinct.
right,
You
it's
don't
like,
feel
oh
it. You don't
shit.
feel it. You don't feel it. It's like it's could we call it a sixth sense because it's like you're so immersed in the game and you're so immersed into the sound design that you become a part of it. Therefore, you have a sense of your immediate area, and if something enters your immediate area, you're like, something's behind me.
Right, and that's something you can't teach. That's kind of I've struggled with this explanation for years and years and years and years, because people have asked me questions before. They're like, oh, how do you play the game, or how do you shoot people, or you got a headshot, oh my god, you got a headshot and you're blind. I'm like, yeah, well, I guessed. I didn't know I got the headshot. You could see that I got the headshot. I didn't know. Cool. I shot the guy in the head. To me, that's not like it's not an amazing thing, because especially if you remember that I could see shadows, I see a blob in front of me because I only have like the central vision coming out of my right eye. So then it's like about, I don't know, like I don't know if I can see, you can see the camera. It's probably like about that big ish, maybe a little
Yeah.
bit like that ish. Um,
Hmm.
that's how much vision I have where I could see colors and shadows out of the center of my right eye. Everything else is completely black. Um, I see a shadow. I'm like, all right, there's a blob there. Where is the head on normal humans? Up. So I'll aim up slightly and shoot. To me, that's common sense, right? It's like
I,
you know the autonomy of a human. You know the head is north, so you're gonna see the blob and you're gonna flick your mouse up, or you're gonna flick your thumb up or whatever, and you're gonna fire. So you'll probably hit the upper body or the head most likely, or you'll
Panda says
miss.
Panda says he loves this. I love it too.
Me too. But see, that's my point. Is like it's common sense, at least to me. It's like, all right, because I maybe you can give me some insight when you're playing a shooter, because you play Halo, like
Mhm.
you can actively see the different body parts, right? You could see like, I guess, whatever Spartans running around, you probably could see the head, the armor, or whatever, what it is. But like on like a Twitch reaction, what are you mainly looking for? Are you just like aiming with your crosshair? Are you using your vision to see where the head is, and then you're aiming at the head, or do you kind of just like fire. I'm not talking about snipers. I'm just talking about running and gunning. You know.
So the way I work, specifically with me, is I'm actually based on my vision is reactionary, so it's based on movement. Movement and discoloration. And what do I mean by that is color that does not match the foreground or the background.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you guys an example. So when I play Call of Duty Warzone, or when I was streaming that at one point, and I was playing solo, a lot of the times shadows kill me because I don't see well in shadows, and this is also real life. Like, I have really good vision. It's just shadows take me a little bit longer to adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually I'll get used to nighttime, um, nighttime lighting where I can see practically normally. But for me, it's just nighttime's always been has always been somewhat of a bane of mine. So if someone's like lurking in the shadows, I have to pay more attention to the shadows because it's like if something moves, I'm shooting that whatever that is. I don't care what it is. It could be a teammate. For all I know is, it's like you moved in my area, like you're getting shot. That's why I tell people don't be like if I tell any teammates I'm like don't be in front of me. It's like because I am reactionary unless I know it's you. If you come running in front of me, like I am shooting you with my shotgun. Like I don't care. Um,
Right.
but for me, it's like specifically because they're now operator skins. Different operators have certain skins, and I've come to know who the popular operators are because there are popular skins out there. So I'm based off of movement and color. So when I see a certain color and I'm playing solo, I'm like, that's an enemy. Like I know for a fact that's an enemy. It's like because there's nobody else in this area other than me, so there has to be somebody else. And
Oh,
then nine times out of 10, I'm correct. Other times it's my eyes playing tricks with me. But that's just how shooters work. Especially with running and gunning, is that when I'm running a submachine gun, I am constantly moving left, moving right, looking up, looking down because it's like I have to see what's on my left. Okay, what's on my right? Nothing. Up there, I see a glint. That's a sniper. Let me move. Start shooting. Get the guy off me, and then find cover. And then that's when I have to look down. Like, hey, in cover, is there somebody already down there? And if there are, let me shoot them real quick. And then, it's all splits decision at that point. And it is based on visual keys. So it's like everyone has different experiences, but for me personally, that's just how I've always been. Is I have what I call panic brain. It's
well,
just like oh my god, I'm panicking. I need to start doing things.
I guess that makes sense, right? And I guess I can kind of like understand that when it comes to gaming, everything. I my mind kind of goes the same way, right? It's like is is the color of the back or the foreground or the background, let's just say it's like gray, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
grayish color. There's certain colors that contrast better that that I could see that I can't see. Like obviously like if it's like purple and red, well that's a bad contrasting color ratio, right? So it's really hard to kind of like distinguish between that. If something like like there's a purple background and there's a red thing that comes flying around, you're not really gonna
Mm-hmm.
see that too well. But if it's like black on white or like red on yellow, you're gonna see that a little bit better than what you would with something something that kind of blends in a little bit more.
Of course.
So for me it's like if it's team deathmatch and we're blue team, okay, I know that we're blue team because one, somebody just told me that I'm on blue team. So obviously that's point A. Point B is that all right, the only other color that's going to probably be moving around is fucking red. So again, common sense. So you kind of strategize and you kind of pick spots in your brain, especially if you know the map really well. Okay, where are the weapon spawns? Where are the choke points? Where do people normally like to fight? Because that happens in every kind of shooter, as far as I imagine. Remember the fundamental thing I was talking about earlier, chat? It's that the fundamental things that you'll learn for every game. Are there choke points on the map? Where are they? Where are the weapon spawns? Where do people like to congregate? Where do fights most likely happen?
Where does this where is what's known as the sniper spot.
Right. So like
Stuff like that becomes, once you get it down to a T, you just like, all right, if I go out here, choke point's going to be on my right. If I can throw a grenade down there to see if I get a hit, and if I get a couple hits, break armor, I can take a couple of shots, take somebody out.
Right. That's where the fundamental aspect comes in with most gaming or most games, right? It's like, okay, all right, I've played a lot of shooters. I've played this. Choke points happen. Fundamentals. So what Red Wolf was talking about when it came to it's talking about colors in the foreground or the background. Does it match? No. Okay. Is it moving? All right. I'm probably going to shoot it. That's kind of the same thing that I take is that, all right, there's a color there or there's a shadow there. Is it moving? Hopefully, hope to God it's not a teammate, because if it's a teammate, you're dying.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's kind of why free for all is kind of my favorite, because anything that moves, I could just shoot it and be like, all right, cool, whatever. But when it comes down to aiming, just aim at the moving target. You see something moving, follow it. And obviously some people aren't good at that. Like there's obviously much more talented people out there that have played shooters and that are part of like the esports scenes and stuff like that, who have better better control over that kind of thing. And it's almost like muscle memory. Same thing with fighting games, right? There's like you get like KI where you have Sonic, or not KI, MK, or you got Sonic Fox. At KI you got Nikki. You have all these other people who are just godlike at the game. You'll have people who have that natural ability or the natural talent. But I digress. When it comes to it, shadow on the screen, it's moving from left to right or right to left. Okay, well, I'm gonna follow it. Where's the shadow in relation? Okay, shadow's at the center of my point of vision. If it's not and it moves out, I'm just gonna fucking flick and guess and shoot. Now, the head on a human is up, so I'm gonna aim a little higher than I would normally. If I want to get a headshot, I'll aim higher. Sometimes the bullets fly over the head and I miss and I look like a dumb idiot. Sometimes, but if I hit something, now I look like a fucking god because I got a headshot. What do you want from me? I don't understand. Honestly, I'm revealing secrets, chat. It's literally a guess. It's a fucking guess. And
no, it's just there's a guy playing behind you and you just happen to be in front of the screen.
Yeah. There's a actually he's over that way. You can't see him. I told him to stay off camera. He's that way, over there. So stay over there. He can't see you. That's the person that plays on my streams.
I still love that. I still love that. That was a thing that someone brought up about your stream. Is that you were just the guy on camera, and there's actually someone actually playing.
Yeah, I'm the
TV at the side.
I'm just the pretty face, man. Nothing. There's an actual talented individual that's sitting behind me or sitting off to my right, just playing the video game.
But yeah, no, it's gotta say though, think about it in context. Like, I want to say let's talk about sound design real quick, because sound design in video games I think are a big aspect of the game. So I know you guys can't see me, but hope you can still hear me.
Yeah, they can still hear you.
Okay. So sound design is a very big aspect, because think about it back in the days now. Let's take Chrono Trigger, for example. Chrono Trigger is a very, very favorite game. It has one of the best soundtracks that's ever been created in the 8-bit era, and even of all time. But there's things about the game that you don't think about. You don't hear any footsteps. You just see people walking, or in this case, like frog leaps, robos.
All right, chat. This is who plays for me, right here. Revealing live on stream. This is who plays all my fighting games for me. She plays all the games that I play. I'm just the face on camera, but this is the mastermind behind me playing all my games. I know.
Is
I
her
know you don't.
name
I
Dio?
know you don't
Is
like
her
to
name?
be. I know you don't like to be on camera. You're frightened. Okay, we can go back to your Heidi. Hold on.
Is her name Dio? Because it was her, Dio.
Right. Yeah. There you go. But I digress. Took me a minute to find her.
Perfect. Um, but think about it this way: sound design has gotten a lot better because at one point we started in an era where there was like no sound for movement, like any unless it was like a weapon attack, spell attack. There was no sound, but then we started getting games where you start hearing footsteps, and then some of them were bland, some of them had some kind of echo to them, but then we start getting into stuff like Xbox 360, PS3, PS4, Xbox One, where now we're getting sound design and it's relevant to your location. So if someone's running away from you, you hear the footsteps slowly getting quieter and quieter until eventually they fade into the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like or if it's like you let's say you jump in a lake, you hear the splash that's relevant to you, or you hear someone jump into a lake and the splash is to your right. You hear it to your right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where accessibility is going to start getting better is in terms of sound design. Is that once we start getting to the point where sound design can easily point you to where you are at, and you don't even have to think about it, I think that's what's going to help a lot of people. And I put the real blind gamer. He just shows you holding up the cat.
Oh yeah, and that's the real. That's the person. That's the real blind gamer who plays on stream. Um, no, I think honestly, sound design is super important. It's super important, but I don't know. I don't really think that sound design is like the end all be all, because sound design can't help you with menus. You know, like menu management. That's all all memorization.
Well,
Where
well,
your
it, well,
cursor
it
is.
well, it can because um, I remember there was a game. I think it was one of the Dead or Alive games. One of the Dead or Alive games actually had a speech mode for the menus. And for every time you would move between the menus, it would read it for you.
Yeah, that's screen reader. That's not sound design. That's a whole other ball game. Mortal Kombat has it. Menu narration. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Immortal Phoenix Rising. I believe Last of Us. They all have narration on it. Um, so that's the sound design aspect. Narration on top of like Resident Evil 6 has a really beautiful feature where you hit a button and your camera just turns automatically to where you need to go, and there's a big flashing light in front of your screen. That's cool too.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that was one of the things I did like was like okay, like it changes the color of the screen. It's like this is where you have to go.
right.
That way,
Like
that way the arrow does not get confused into. Or even we could take Resident Evil 5, the partner button, which is you just hold B,
right.
and it'll
It'll follow your partner. You know.
yeah.
It's like stuff like that. If that stuff was a toggle, obviously development time, whatever, what have you, with game design. But if there was a team full of like an accessibility team that was paid and whatever to work on that, I have no doubt in my mind that would be included. But I'm not stupid, right? Like I'm very realistic in that in the forefront of like the majority of gamers who are playing they don't have a physical disability of such kind, like they hard of hearing, blindness, physical disabilities or anything like that, right? Like now everybody has their struggle. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just like an impairment or impairment impediment of some sort, right? um
Mm-hmm.
that needs a special classification to fix. So, for example, like a blind person would need really good sound design, map marker, uh, screen reader, stuff like that. Hard of hearing needs closed captioning, like advanced closed captioning, where it's like ambient noise or whatever it says. I obviously can't read subtitles, but like it's like if there's a bird calling, the subtitle reads out bird calling or some shit like that, right? It's like that's the advanced shit that happens, not just the speech. Um, the physical disabilities. Can you remap your buttons? That's always been there. Can you turn on, like, instead of a toggle, it's a hold, or button delay, or there's so many things that could be implemented into a game that help different groups of people, that I know that it takes time, money, talent, what have you. But I do think that it's going this into the steps are being made, because some things that are made for other groups of gamers can be used for blindness, for hard of hearing, physical disabilities, like physical disabilities, key bindings. Key bindings are in every fucking game on PC, right? If it's a good game, it has a rebindable keys, so you can rebind it to fit your playstyle, to fit your disability. So that's
even on console, or as Microsoft's done, they've actually done it where it's in the console settings now. You can
right.
you can actually program your controller to what you need it. So if you want the confirmation button to be X instead of A, you could change that.
Right.
Or it's like, or they even have they have pro controllers now that have buttons on the back. So it's like, let's say um, let's say for some reason you can't use your pointer fingers, or you don't have a pointer finger. What you can do is you can program your back palm triggers to, let's say, be your RB and your R and your RT button now.
Right.
So
Right.
It makes it easier.
And that's what I mean. So, like, in what I was gonna say for the blindness community, if you could see colors, or if you can't see colors also well, but you have some residual, you're gonna hear that term a lot. Residual vision, usable vision,
Mm-hmm.
a tool. Colorblind correction might be your thing, because it might brighten up a contrast, or contrast settings might be a thing. That's for people who are colorblind. Colorblindness is very real, very impeding thing. Game developers have thought about colorblindness. They have colorblind correction. They have a few different settings for that. They can some games have intensity sliders for those things too. Those could be used. It's taking the time. If anything to take away from this point in talking chat is that you think outside the box. Just because it doesn't have something that you're comfortable with or you're used to using, it doesn't mean that the game is outright unplayable. Because if you're waiting for a specific thing to use, you're going to be waiting for a long time. But if you want to play the game, where there's a will, there's a way. And when it comes down to it, is that if you really want to play something, you will find a way to do it. At least you should. If you really want to do something. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't go get in a car if you're blind. Hey, stay away from that, okay? Self-driving cars are a thing that's coming, but be patient with me. But when it comes to gaming, you find a way to play the game. And there's no wrong or right way to do it. Like I said, as long as you're not impeding on somebody else's fun, if your fun is making somebody else feel some type of way, that's wrong. Unless it's a joyful feeling, I guess. Sure. Semantics.
I would say, with the whole "there's a will, there's a way," I think one of the best places to look is the modding community. Let's take Tazazi, for example. She helped make a program for you for KI to understand the KV meter.
Right.
Because there were times you weren't cashing out damage at certain points.
Yep.
And or you would completely blow out the combo and you would lose a lot of damage. And her dedication to saying she wanted to make a program that she could input into KI, where each meter had a different sound, and it would tell you, and it indicated to you, I'm at level 1 and a level 2 and level 3, so on and so forth. So you know the strength of your combo, and it helped refine your gameplay a lot, to where you're cashing out your damage when you need to. You know when to reset now, and you're slowly getting to that point where it's that it's become a helpful tool. And I think that's what's great about the modding community, is that the modding community is a community that Yeah, they'll make mods that are silly, they're fun. Sometimes they'll make mods that are generally great quality of life fixes. But there's a small section of that modding community. They're like, we want to make games more accessible, and we're gonna find ways to do that. Does it take a while? Sure. It's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna take a lot of effort. But that's why they put it out for people because they try to advertise it and saying, Danny, come to me. All right. Keep getting interrupted.
No, it's all good. If you want to go get food, it's all good. I'll just see about turning on the screen reader here.
I will in a second. But getting back to my point, like there's that small group that within the modding community that are, they'll put the time into dedication and they'll try to find people to test it out for them because they want more and more people to enjoy the games that we have. Like I said, Tadazi was a great example, and I thought what she did was very awesome. It was very ambitious, but she found a way to do it, and it took her time and a lot of testing. But you now have a program in KI that's that help refine your game now. You understand the KV meter a lot better now, and you've adjusted your combos and you've adjusted your strategy.
Yeah, the modding community is huge. Actually, the modding community is kind of one of the main reasons why I was able to play through The Witcher 3 entirely. I had a shit ton of mods in The Witcher 3.
So go ahead and continue. I'll be right back, guys. I'm just going to eat real quick.
Yeah, so when it comes to the modding community, it's fantastic. That's why I normally play my games on PC. I think that's the reason why I'm such an avid PC gamer. Because of the modding community. Obviously, consoles they're good in their own right. Xbox, PS, PlayStation, Switch, they all have zoom capabilities. They all have screen reading capabilities. Like that's really cool. I love it. I love that the PlayStation has a screen reader. Microsoft has its narrator. Switch has Zoom. It just shows that developers are listening even at a base level to that, right? They're listening to that. They're listening at least to an extent to make gaming a little bit more accessible and a little bit easier for blind players and other players that are, like I said, it's making Abled Gamers, which is a charity I love. Abled Gamers, and they're working alongside people, to help make the game better or make gaming better for everyone. And I think that's the goal. That's the biggest goal in my mind that I could see, because if there's a game that can come out to every person in the community that everybody can play and enjoy and have fun, by all means, I'm all for that. I'm all for that 100%. But when it comes down to it, playing games is playing games, man. You take the game seriously that you want to take. If you want to be a competitive Call of Duty player, you want to be a competitive Halo player, a fighting game player, you're going to put the time and dedication into it. You're going to put the time and effort. You're going to really try to push yourself. And I think taking that mentality and striving to be better will work to go a long way for people who have any kind of disability to play a game. Even at the forefront, the game doesn't really look like it has options, because you can use everyday life hacks. You can use these, things that are tailored to you specifically on how you play, and tailor your own play style to really make something work. But again, it's going to be up to you and how you do that. It's going to be up to you if you want to put the time and dedication to do something like that. You can't just expect things to be handed to you on a silver platter and be like, okay, here it is. Here you go. Here's a fully accessible game. Have fun. Because that's not always how it is. And sometimes when you hit that brick wall and you realize, okay, that game is not playable, now you know exactly what you're looking for in other games. So you don't waste your money, or you don't waste people's time. You're like, okay, well, if this game wasn't playable, this game sounds a lot like this game, I don't think this game will be playable either. But it should never really stop you from at least giving it a shot, right? Like giving a game the old college try, if you will. Um, but I honestly, I think when it comes down to it, people will find a way. Like I was tagged on, or I was tagged in the Blind Gamers Hub Discord by a gentleman by the name of One Handstance. Guy's got one arm. That man was doing fucking spinning SPDs with Geef. Fucking godlike. He was going past zoning and grabbing some people, giving them a big hug, and slamming them down on the ground. It was crazy. And one hand. To me, I'm blind, and I'm like, man, I don't know what I would do if I only had one hand. Just like many of you in chat would probably be like, man, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't see. But everybody, that's where the struggle comes in, is that most people, when it comes down to it, struggle and disabilities cannot be, compared, at least not accurately. There's no accurate comparison. There's no one size fits all struggle. There's no one size, there's empathy that could be shared for sure. But when it comes down to it, everybody has a unique struggle. Like Wheels, for example, really good fucking KI player, top 8 placer, tournament winner. Man is in a wheelchair. And he doesn't have access to certain buttons like I do. I have full use of my hands. He doesn't. But he could see and I can't, And me and him go back and forth all the time. We're just like, I don't know how you fucking do it, because I couldn't. I think that's just the nature of the beast, is that people always have their struggles, and they have their little hacks that they do going forward with gaming, or with anything in life, honestly. So I guess when it comes down to really taking a look at yourself and taking a look at the person that you want to be, it's all mental. And by all means, if you guys have anything to share, any stories to share, I'm all ears. I turned the screen reader on, so the chat, I can actually hear it now. You guys will hear everything that you're posting, so should be all good to go. Just kind of waiting for Red Wolf to come back from getting his comida, his food. So hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. Can you guys hear me okay? All the levels good? Everything good on your guys' end? I should have asked that long before, to be honest.
Panda_zoo_ said, I agree.
Good deal. Good deal. But yeah, chat, I don't know. Honestly, when it comes down to it, everybody has their shtick. Everybody has their struggle.
Panda_zoo_ said, sounds amazing.
Thanks, man. Dude, the fucking Shure SM7B. This microphone. I don't know if you guys can see it on cameras right here. You guys probably can. God, this microphone's just lovely. I like it a lot. Very glad that Kelly gifted it to me. Sparrow Gaming. Super appreciative. It's a fantastic microphone. It's just good sound quality. But anyway, like I said, well, I haven't said it before, but I will say, top right next to me, to the camera there, Ultrafine Atomic Weekly. It's run by one of our TO community members, Trash Baby. They run this tournament weekly every Wednesday. If you're interested in KI, then by all means sign up. It's free.
Sounds sexy.
Sounds sexy. Yeah, fucking stoner. Yeah, it's a weekly tournament. You want to go toss some hands in KI? It's a regular tournament. I'm just, again, waiting for Red Wolf to come back, and then we'll move on to some of the other topics we have. Accessibility in gaming. I mean, you guys are, if you guys are long-time watchers of my stream, this is something that I always harp on. Always talk about blindness, accessibility. It's just who I am. It's who I am as a person. I can't escape it. So I just finally found a few things that I could talk about when it in relation to it. It's and to get your guys' feedback and opinion, or even just to kind of have a sit down chat, would be awesome. It would be really cool to see what other people think, or how other people play the game, especially with other disabilities. And again, this is kind of the first foray. I don't even know if I'm saying that word correctly, but it's the first time for my podcast, Hind-Sight Podcast. Kind of jank at first, because no UI, no nothing. To me, I think it's great because I can't see any of it, but it's probably visually firing off people's OCD real bad, most likely, because I had to with a screen share with Daniel on Discord to get everything lined up, and then things aren't resized correctly and all that other good stuff. Yeah, you're gonna love it, chat. When I get to the tournament calendar that I have that I'm gonna show you guys, it's gonna be phenomenal. It's like I said before too. Freaking the Ameekos
Panda
photos.
underscore zoo underscore.
Like these Ameekos photos here.
Said. Minimal is good.
Minimal
Panda
is good.
underscore zoo underscore. Said. It looks amazing.
It looks amazing. Now you're lying. Excuse me. Yeah, now you're lying. But these Ameekos photos here on my stream starting soon. Apparently, some of them are sideways. No idea. Had this thing on for like God knows how long, for how many streams, and some of them are sideways and not, and they're landscape or what have you, and they're weird looking. So.
And I'm back.
There you go. Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. This man's got to eat at times.
W0 Jack said. What are your top 5 favorite games?
My top 5 favorite games of all time? Oh shit.
Panda underscore zoo underscore.
Woo!
Said. Thought it was intentional.
Here. I'll make it
Zoo
easier.
Underscore.
Wolfman,
Said.
give us a genre.
LOL.
And then I think it'll be a little bit easier.
No, I mean, I'm cool with it. Top 5 favorite games that I have.
W0 Jack said.
The first 5 games that.
How about the first 5 games that come to mind?
Okay. Well, the first game that I can think of that it's the first game I ever 100% completed. And that was The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. And this game has a fucking story. If you guys want to know where there's a will, there's a way, this is a story. Because what I did was, you remember those, I'm pretty sure they still have them, but now everybody just goes to like Game Facts or some shit, or they go to YouTube and they're just like, how to beat blah, blah, blah. And they just kind of go through a walkthrough. Cause I know I do that a lot too. I'm like, fuck, I need a guide. But remember those strategy guides that would come out for games, right?
Nintendo Power.
Right. So you get those strategy guides. So a friend of mine had the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask strategy guide, and actually, Panda Zoo is in the chat. So we went to middle school, high school, and some of college together. And what I did is there was at school, there was a what do you call that? A transcriber or a scanner. So I scanned the whole guide into the computer, right? And then painstakingly brailled out the walkthrough sections
God damn.
of the guide.
How long did it take you?
It took myself, Panda Zoo, and I don't know if Serge was there. I can't remember, but I know Panda. It took us like 4 months to complete the guide completely, right? It like fully brailled out where the masks were, where the dungeon stuff was, like complete brailled out so I could take it home. And for those who don't know Braille, there's two styles of Braille. There's uncontracted, like grade 1, and then there's contracted Braille, which is grade 2. I only know uncontracted. I only know grade 1. Now, to give you an idea what that is that contracted Braille, it's just like, it's shorthand, essentially. It's shorthand because it makes things like condensed. So, like the first Harry Potter book, if you get uncontracted grade 1 Braille, that shit is like 3 volumes for one book.
Oh my God.
But then if you have it in contracted Braille with, double-sided or whatever, it's in 1 volume. So that gives you a good idea of like the difference between contracted and uncontracted Braille.
Said.
So
it was like a 6-month ordeal.
Yeah.
Panda underscore zoo underscore.
Right.
Said. Intense.
So yeah, it was like a 6-month ordeal, right? And so I took this guide home, and it was like a project. And then I followed the guide the best that I could, with Panda and Serge and my brothers, and just different people going on like that. And it's the first that's the first game that comes to my mind. It's because of that reason. Where there's a will, there's a way. That right there, 100% completed Majora's Mask. The second game, Dragon Quest VIII. Dragon Quest VIII is another game that's kind of similar to that, except I played it with my brother. We didn't 100% complete it, but we completed it. It took us a year. It took us a full year to complete that game. My third game, God, I would have to say Shin Megami Tensei.
Good series.
So Shin Megami Tensei, if I had to pick one, it'd be 3, which I'm so happy that it's getting remastered on Steam. So Shin Megami Tensei 3, I guess I can make that tied with Persona 4, Persona 5. Number 4 would probably have to be Killer Instinct. I mean, come on, you knew it was coming. It's a game that I'm competitive in. It's the first fighting game that led me to my competitive series I've placed in tournaments. So there's that. And then my fifth would probably be Paper Mario Thousand Year Door.
Those are all really solid games.
Mostly RPGs. Can you sense a theme? Yeah. So.
Those are good. Let's see. If I had to pick my top 5 of all time, in no particular order, I would say Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess.
That's a good title.
Love the music. Love the dungeons.
Yeah.
Love Wolf Link because Wolf Link is awesome.
You would. Of course you would love Wolf Link.
Do you expect anything else out of me?
You're the fur here, not me.
Again, my point stands. Do you expect anything else?
No, not really.
So, there's that. My next favorite would have to be my favorite RPG of all times, which is Chrono Trigger. Great music, great battle system, great story, especially if you play the DS version, because the DS version has the additional endings. And those you have to work for. So, great overall. My next favorite would probably be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You know what? Actually, I take that back. I'm going to take it back. I'm going to go before that.
Give me 1 second, chat. I'll just leave Red
Panda
Wolf
underscore
here.
zoo underscore.
Be right back.
Said. It's a tough question.
It's
Panda underscore zoo underscore.
I agree, Panda.
Said.
I'm gonna take Modern
one.
Warfare 2 back. As much as I love Modern Warfare 2, and it was such a staple game for me, and it was like the height of my shooter career, I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna go to Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Why that is because there's memories to that. I remember a time when I was playing on the 360, and it was actually ranked as I think it was ranked in like the top 20 of like best players online. And I decided one day, like, I'm gonna go into like a random unranked match, just play with a bunch of random people, and see how that goes. Well, that's where I ended up meeting one of my current friends, Nightmare Demon. His name's Chad, and I met his sister Jennifer. They had their own little clique going, and they noticed how I was the top killer in like the first 5 games that I played with them. So they invited me to their Xbox party chat, and they're like, hey man, like you're really good at the game. I'm like, well, thank you. Like I play the game a lot. I love the guns. I love the armor customization. And then they invited me onto their team, and ever since then we for like an entire summer, I did nothing but play Rainbow Six Vegas 2 with those guys, and that's where I met like one of our friends, like Mad Dog. We met our friend. We met Poppy, who was the oldest of us. He was a guy in his 50s who lived in New York, and he was cool to talk to. He's someone you could definitely have a conversation with because he would give you advice. He's been through a lot. He went through a lot of changes in America, and he was definitely someone that you could go to advice for, and he would give you the most solid advice. And that group was around for quite some time. We played a lot of Rainbow Six Vegas too, and of course we went into like the first series. But I would have to say my third favorite would be Vegas 2. Great game, still a great game. Kind of want to go back to it. I might go back to it. My favorite game. It's a tough one. I would say the original Jak and Daxter. That was the first game I had ever 100%ed myself. Every other game I had played. Excuse me for a second. I had never tried to complete it. I only played it to play the game. And it's not that I didn't want to find all the secrets and all that. I was just like, oh, I'm going to play the game and all that. But then I was told by a friend, hey, there's a secret ending.
Sounds like my WoW community back in the day.
Jak and Daxter in the Precursor Legend. And I was like, really? There is? He's like, yeah, you got to get all power cells, and then you got to get all of the orbs. So that I started a new file. Sounds like my WoW community back in the days, right? That group was awesome, man. That group was great. I miss that group. We talk every now and then. Nightmare Demon still comes by my streams every now and then. He still says what's up, and he and I talk on Facebook and all that.
All right, Chad, you're gonna get audio. You're gonna get audio only for right now because I hate eating on stream. So we're gonna go into. You guys are gonna look at Miko pics. I hate eating on stream.
So, what was I just saying? What did I pick as my fourth again? I just got distracted from it. God damn it.
The original Jak and Daxter, tonto.
Yeah. Hey! You're the one who interrupted my line.
You were going on a tangent.
Do you know me any other way? But then again, I was kind of answering Panda's comment of talking about my old Rainbow Six Vegas 2 team. So I had created a second playthrough of Jak and Daxter, and I told myself I was not going to the next area until I got all the power cells in the first area. And I just kept going through that. Some of them were a little bit more challenging than others, but I just kept going. And eventually, when I was 15, I had 100% it for the first time on my PS2. And I got the secret ending, and then that's how it led into Jak 2. And I was like, oh man, that was so cool to get. And then my final game for my top 5 would probably be any of the Pokemon games. Mainly the main titles. So like Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, Ruby Sapphire, all that stuff. I grew up in the Pokemania. I loved Pokemon. I couldn't get enough of Pokemon. I took a break at one point when I entered high school, but I got back into it, and I just really love Pokemon. Like I played the card games, I played the video games, I watched the anime. So Pokemon is definitely, it's definitely in the top five. If I had to pick my favorite version, it'd probably be Crystal. Because at one point when I had Crystal, I had all of the Pokemon that were known at the time before third generation came out, and it was such a great experience. And I still play Pokemon to this day. I play Sword every now and then. Not on stream. I kind of just do it off stream. So that those are my top five. Um, a lot of memories with those games. Good memories, some bad memories, but not all memories are bad. Definitely games that I've grown up on this too, and some games that I still find myself you know going back to every now and then as for nostalgia. Every now and then I'll go to my cousin and I'll borrow his old Game Boy. Surprisingly he still has it. And I'll put the batteries in, and I'll go through Pokemon Red every now and then. Just to kind of remind myself of a simpler time when handheld was still in its infancy, and we only had like two colors. It was red or blue, or if you were playing like an older Game Boy, it was like this green, this like very nasty like lime green color that if you're looking at it today, you'd be like, that's what we played on. But yeah, good question though. That was a tough one to think about because I have to think about all the games. I've probably played thousands of games in my life, and to pick just five of them is definitely hard. What do you guys want to talk about? Any other questions, comments, concerns, random statements you want to make? I'm enjoying these Miko pics. This dog is so adorable. Dun, 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 dun. See what happens when my brother gets back. Good timing.
Running around like a chicken with my head cut off, man. Sorry about that, chat. My bad. But yeah. Top 5 favorite games list. That was a really good question when it comes down to it. Yeah, I really hate eating on stream chat. Sorry. I really do.
Why is that?
Because I can't see when I eat, and neither should you guys.
Sure, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but I don't know that.
I mean, I could tell you.
That's okay. No worries.
Well, let's see. Let's talk a little bit of some speaking of KI. Let's talk about the tournament that you are promoting right now.
You mean this one?
Yes. Ultra Fine Atomic Weekly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a tournament that happens every Wednesday, guys, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the KI tournament run by one of the people from the community, Trash Baby. They've been running this tournament for Actually, how long have they been running this?
I think this will be like their third week this coming Wednesday. I believe.
Okay, so a new league tournament. I believe it's not sanctioned, right? This is just like a friendlies tournament.
Yeah, it's just a tournament that you can just go toss hands. No sanction for the cup, at least not yet. As far as I know.
Speaking of that, for people who don't know, if you're a big KI fan and you like watching KI, their KI World Cup online is going on. There are some tournaments out there that are sanctioned. You get KI points if you make like top 8, and you get major points if you win the tournament, or even top 3. I believe the cup is in December, like towards the end of the year.
Yeah, it's December 12th, I think.
So pretty close to the end of the year. Myself and my brother, we compete. I haven't been able to compete as of lately because I've been kind of busy with my new job. But actually, when's the next sanction tournament? I need to know this. And I'm pretty sure others would like to know this too.
The next sanction tournament?
Correct.
Well, if we bring up a May calendar here. Sorry if this is hard to see, guys. The image is kind of weird. Most of the tournaments for May are here. The only sanctioned event that I know of is what May. Does May have a 31st? I don't think. Yeah, it does.
Yes.
May 30th is the only sanctioned tournament that I know of. But any one of these tournaments can be sanctioned. Oh no, the Immortal Reign tournament is sanctioned.
And where's Immortal Reign on the?
If it's not there on the calendar, it is the same day as the Surf and Turf one. I know the Surf and Turf one is on the. At least it should be.
Oh, so it'll be the 25th.
Okay, so that's the next sanctioned one that I know of personally, the 25th, and that's for KI World Cup points. I think the Surf and Turf is also a sanctioned event.
4 p.m. CDT. Oh, I'm actually not making.
Yeah. So.
I'll be at work. Damn it! Why can't we do this in the evening? And most of us are home.
That's what the weekend tournaments are for.
Which I need to start paying more attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. But yeah, if you guys want to see some K action, my brother definitely streams his outings for the tournaments. I'll stream it every now and then. I haven't had a chance to as of lately because I've gotten to my own schedule. But now we're making this schedule with this podcast, and also now he and I are going to be doing more co-op streams. So we're going to be playing Portal 2 tonight in about like 5 minutes.
Yeah, in a bit.
So that reminds me, I need to start getting my stuff set up. So let me just start working on that. I like this though. I think this is such a great thing to be a part of. And I really do appreciate you allowing me to be a part of this. I think this is such a cool idea that we get to try out. I definitely think over time we can start working more on it. Get some intros, more people talking.
Yeah.
Definitely ask some questions.
It was kind of last minute. I really wanted to get this started. All right, for those people who want to see what I'm eating a kebab. So it's this thing. Here you go. That's what I'm eating. But I'm not going to eat it on stream.
Ooh, kebabs.
Yeah. So, but yeah, chat. Let me know. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the follow button. It's free. It's easy to do. Also, follow me on Twitter at blindgamer102. You can follow AZ Red Wolf at his tweets. I'll let him do his whole little intro or spiel. But I will be definitely updating people with the one when the podcast will be uploaded to YouTube, as well as the next podcast when it comes down to it. and maybe get a better showing for different slides, different promotions. Again, this is the first Hind-Sight podcast. That's what it's going to be called. It's called Hind-Sight.
Panda
I'm
underscore
really
zoo
excited
underscore
that I was able to launch it.
said, I'm following.
Yeah,
Panda
yeah, you are,
underscore zoo
Panda.
underscore
You're following.
said, and on Twitter,
And on
Panda
Twitter, look at that.
underscore zoo underscore said, I win.
You do win. But yeah, so again, this is the launch of the Hind-Sight podcast. I'm definitely think it's going to be a monthly thing for right now. If I get more topics or if I get more interest, maybe go to a bi-weekly. That would be fun. I don't know if I could ever do a weekly podcast. That's a lot. That's a lot for anything. But who knows? You know, the only time will tell. The future will tell what is going to happen. But I'm really excited that I was able to kind of get it out in the open. That I'm working on something like this. Hind-Sight, really, really fun idea for me, and I'm glad Red Wolf is able to kind of join me and hang out with me. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the Ameekos picks, and I'll let Red Wolf. Actually, go ahead, Red Wolf. Go ahead and plug your stuff.
So if you guys want to follow me anywhere, you can follow me on Twitter at CrimsonWolf22, Wolf with a U. Make sure you do that because people spell it wrong all the time. And then if you want to help me out with my stream as well and come check out some of my playthroughs, I'm at AZRedWolf, twitch.tv/AZRedWolf. And from there, we play all kinds of games. We just got done with the legacy run of the Resident Evil series with the conclusion of Resident Evil Village on hardcore mode. So that'll be so going back to Resident Evil games, we'll probably go back to them periodically, but not so much anymore. Tonight, for tonight's stream, I'm going to be doing a co-op stream with my younger brother, BlindGamer102, with Portal 2. So we'll be doing that, and then tomorrow we'll
Panda
be,
underscore zoo underscore
end of the weekend
said,
stream.
You should make a
Octopath,
Google
and we'll be
submission
getting
sheet
back
for
to that.
topics to talk about if you
should
want.
make a Google submission for topics to talk about if you want.
Yeah, so a Google submission sheet. I'm trying to think of different ways to get podcast ideas. Google submission sheet is one of the ideas. I also have the Discord. The Discord link is in the bio. There's a section called Hind-Sight Podcast. That's also a good place where if you have topic ideas, you guys can post different things that you want to hear us talk about, or opinions, or if you want to make a guest appearance on the podcast, that'd be cool too. That's all in the Discord. But yeah, I was kind of flirting with ideas of how I'm gonna do it. Google submission sheet is an idea that I did think about. But if you're not part of the Discord, hey, join the Hind-Sight Discord. It's down there.
And then so we'll be doing that. And of course, for the next week's schedule for my Twitter, we'll be doing the Mass Effect, guys. Mass Effect on Thursday and Fridays. We'll be doing essentially a legacy run of that, playing the Legendary Edition of the first 3 games. Going to be going through that. That's probably going to take up like at least another month or 2 because those games take a while. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and start getting ready for our co-op stream tonight. I'm going to start getting stuff on my end done. So I'm going to hop over to my channel, and I hope to see you guys there. And this was fun.